here's Brody Brazil.
First off, I just want to clear something up about a video I made the other day regarding the Rays and potentially their very best location in Tampa not being available anymore. This is the Gasworks site here, 50 acres outlined in red. In the video, and let me just sparkle it for you there, I might have called it the Ybor site because this is right next to Ybor City, which hopefully I'm pronouncing Ybor correctly because I did get a lot of comments on that too. But this is not the Ybor Harbor site, which had also been talked about by the Rays for a potential stadium location. My entire point here was to say that this location, these 50 acres, this was the best and most prime opportunity and location because it offered more space, more acreage. This comes with the downtown village and housing and condos and hotels and all that fun stuff you want to build next to a baseball stadium. I'm just saying this was probably the best option in Tampa that went away officially. Graham Tyrell is Kettler Real Estate's managing director. Graham said the other day during a press tour, quote, "We've gone past the point where we could include a stadium within Gasworks." Again, the Rays had talked about this as a site. They also talked about the harbor as a potential site. But again, Gasworks is out. Let's clear that up. But Gasworks, again, is not the harbor. Let me paint the picture here for you. There's downtown. There's the Gasworks site area location. There's the Ybor Harbor site and location. And I again, hope I'm saying Ybor accurately as I can here. So the harbor is in a different spot. It's on the other side of the expressway there. It's a little bit more tight on land. It's a little bit more crammed in there, but it is technically also on the water. It's an area that's very industrial right now, used by the port for a bunch of different things. Looks like we've got some dry docks there. Looks like we've got a little bit of a turning area and basin there. Some fuel tanks. I mean, this looks as industrial as it gets. Doesn't necessarily look like a place that you'd be wanting 35,000 people to congregate for a Rays baseball game. But this was the idea initially, and to the point where the Rays actually put this together, an idea of how the footprint would look here, a dome stadium on almost 13 acres. And again, that seems reasonable. It also seems amazing that in Las Vegas, the A's are trying to fit a dome stadium on 9 acres. And here's almost 13 with some space around it, the different buildings. This goes to show you what the Rays were proposing as late as July of 2023. Now, wait a second. You're thinking, didn't the Rays already have kind of a handshake deal with St. Petersburg in January of 2023 to move forward with staying in St. Pete? But yeah, the Rays this entire time, hang on for this, had been talking with Tampa about pursuing this harbor site in the background of everything. And when we look at these renderings, I mean, this looks very basic, not advanced in terms of renderings or actuality, or are you really going to build a dome like that? And what does something like this cost now in 2025? Even a couple years ago, we could probably shave off a few $100 million, but now we're probably going to double the price of whatever that elaborate structure there cost. It's just amazing, right? You just saw the satellite view of the harbor and the channel here and how it kind of dead ends and how it looks. And you're really going to fit all that in there, high-rise buildings and a baseball stadium on that small footprint? It does seem kind of amazing. According to the Tampa Bay Times in their piece from December of 2024, Tampa Sports Authority President and CEO Eric Hart recently told the Tampa Bay Times that even as the Rays were closing in on that gas plant development deal, right, the one that the Rays just recently backed out of, so this was in about July 2023, that the Rays pitched what is known as the Ybor Harbor site and provided the agency with an economic analysis. AECOM, the sports authority's consultant that created the presentation, wrote that its report was based on information current as of February 2023. So it just goes to show you here that within the last 2+ years, this is a different site that the Rays were considering, not just the Gasworks site, which again is now unavailable. The Ybor Harbor site is something that they were last on right before they turned to here to stay in St. Pete. On that note, St. Petersburg Mayor Ken Welch has staked his political career on finding a forever home for the Rays in St. Petersburg. when he picked the Rays and Hines to develop the historic gas plant district in January 2023. So again, the Rays were talking about Tampa after they'd already kind of shook hands in January of 2023. That summer, they were still focusing on something else. He said, Ken Welch said, the mayor, quote, "We're engaged and hope to be married very soon," end quote, to the Rays. Rays president Brian Auld was not as committed. He said then that the team was, quote, "continuing the dialogue," end quote, with Tampa and Hillsborough County. So he wasn't hiding it, that the Rays were working with Tampa and Hillsborough County for this Ybor Harbor site. For me, it'll be when there's a shovel in the ground, he said at that time. Now, there's another twist to this. Of course there is, right? You should also know about this. The Ybor Harbor site just recently, like within the last 2+ weeks, just got approved, a first round of approvals for a plan and a development. And as you can see right there, no baseball stadium as part of that. The Ybor Harbor Development Project has received initial approval from Tampa City Council with a few reservations, and we'll get to those reservations in just a second. It would be located on the Ybor Channel, a site once proposed for a baseball stadium for the Tampa Bay Rays. By the way, this coming to us from WUSF Radio, which is the NPR station in Tampa. The property is bounded by the Channel District on the west and North 19th Street on the east, with the Selmon Expressway to the north. That is the divider between basically the harbor site and the gasworks site. Developer Darryl Shaw, wait a second, we've heard that name before. Darryl Shaw is also developer of gasworks right across the way. Darryl Shaw said, "Nope, we don't have room, we don't have time or space anymore on our site, gasworks, for a ballpark. Maybe they should try somewhere else." Well, guess what? Darryl Shaw also is developer of the harbor site. He's proposing to put in offices, residential units, hotels, retail, and plenty of space to walk around the harbor. But what about a ballpark? Last week, the City Council approved the plan on first reading. I'm not editing that one out. But council member Lynn Hurtak expressed concerns. Here we go with some concerns about this site. "I think it's the beginning of the end of the port," Hurtak said. Wait a second, where have I covered this story before? A baseball team that wants to build on a small parcel of land that used to be used by the port, and it didn't work out there. Interesting. The council was assured that the project would not interfere with channel navigation. I also went through that whole song and dance with Howard Terminal and Oakland. And no one from Port Tampa Bay spoke in opposition? Interesting. Maybe the Port Tampa Bay, maybe they want this to happen. Hey, the Port of Oakland wanted Howard Terminal and that baseball stadium to happen for the A's. It was other groups and other shipping agencies that did not want that to happen. But maybe they'll be present if this goes any further, because the second reading on this is scheduled for right around the corner, May 2nd. So we'll hear more about the potential approvals of this Ybor Harbor development without a ballpark as it stands right now. Again, for me, the Rays, it comes down to this: St. Petersburg or Tampa. Now we know that the gasworks is a no, but the harbor's a question mark. St. Pete, they've got the land still. They have no deal because it fell apart. The Rays backed out. Politicians there not happy with the team or their owner. Tampa might seem willing, I suppose, politically. They obviously were talking to the Rays as recently as about, I guess, a year and a half ago, maybe closer to 20 months ago. Politically, they seem like they might be into this. The Rays are doing just fine in Tampa right now, playing it at Steinbrenner Field, home of the Yankees for spring training and their single A team. Maybe the harbor site now is the only option, but maybe it's not an option if developments are happening and things get approved and none of it includes a ballpark. It's a huge question mark. And obviously Orlando is just sitting there in the background, doing their thing, collecting money, $2.5 billion ready, and you know they're going to make their push for Major League Baseball and this team. The Dreamers have announced all this money, $1.5 billion for the team, $1 billion for the stadium. They're hiring people. They're adding staff members. They're building a brand new permanent downtown headquarters. Here are my takeaways as it relates to Tampa and the Rays as it stands, like the city of Tampa. The gasworks site and those 50 acres, that was, in my opinion, the ideal downtown Tampa ballpark location. This Ybor Harbor site, might be on the water, but that might cost a ton. That might also, like, logistically be a little bit impossible, trying to build a dome on that small footprint. There's a lot going on there. Plus, where does everybody park, and where's the ballpark village that you know that every team and developer wants and loves? It just doesn't make as much sense. Ybor Harbor is on the water, but like I said, looks cramped and unrealistic. And again, Tampa was in late talks, so maybe we shouldn't cross them off. I was quick to say that, well, the Gasworks site is out. That's obviously the best spot, the most reasonable spot. If that's gone, everything's gone. Maybe not so fast. Maybe this harbor site is still manageable somehow, some way. But I will say this about anything for Tampa. It's not impossible that the Rays actually, I say stay in Tampa Bay, but go to Tampa proper. It's possible. It's not impossible. But Tampa better start playing some offense here. Because Orlando is, and St. Pete's pretty much like checked out of the conversation, at least with the current Rays ownership. So if Tampa wants a crack at this, they better not think that taking their time is the wise thing to do here. They better play some offense and just see what happens. I'm not saying commit to a bad deal. I'm not saying get involved in something that's crazy. I'm saying if they have any interest, they might want to just make some phone calls and show some initiative and just see how exactly this works with the current Rays ownership, with a different Rays ownership. If they want to keep a team in Tampa Bay, Tampa itself might want to just jump in the conversation. So again, Gasworks site, off limits. No ballpark going there. Too late. Ybor Harbor site, still a possibility, less realistic, but was the last thing that Tampa and the Rays discussed. Okay, you made it here to the end of this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. There was a lot to get to in this one. Also, thumbs up since you made it to the very end of this video. That'll greatly help me, this video, and this channel. And don't forget to go down there and hit that subscribe button below. That way I can definitely see you back here next time.